Welcome, everybody. As you know, because you have the conference agenda, this presentation is about video engagement. So what I'm really going to talk to you today about is, how to keep people coming back to an OTT service or online video, the things that you can do to make sure that you have a compelling offering in the market. A little bit about myself. So my name is Jason Thibeault. I am the Executive Director of the Streaming Video Alliance. If you don't know what that is, we are a trade association that builds specifications, functional requirements, and sometimes standards to solve critical challenges in the online video industry. So some of our member companies are like Comcast and Verizon and Google and Amazon. They all come together and collaborate to build these specifications, and then we publish those out to the market for everyone to use to help build a better video experience and drive user adoption. So that's me. And with that said, let's get started. All right, so why are we here? Why are you in this room? You want to figure out how to stop your users from turning their back on you, right? So right now, the market is saturated with online video. It's saturated with OTT offerings. It's got tons of providers. Everyone seems to want to get somebody's attention with video. And that's a problem. That's a problem about how do you keep subscribers loyal to you? How do you keep people at your door watching your content? Now, I'm not going to give you any relationship advice today, but I will tell you I do know everything about video. That's a total joke. You're supposed to laugh at that, like, yeah, that's very funny. No, so the problem with subscriber churn, the problem with keeping subscribers at your door is really about two things. The first is abandonment, right? So users will come and watch a video, and they'll leave 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute into the video, right? So they abandon it. And if you're an ad-driven model, that's an issue, right? You're losing impressions, you're losing advertising dollars. The second issue that we're going to talk about is churn. So that's where subscribers are looking at your service going, why am I paying $7.99, $8.99, $14.99 a month for this? I don't want to pay for this anymore. I'm going to leave. And so there's a littering of information out there about why these two things happen. So I just pulled some articles, and these articles date all the way back to like 2010, right? So you've got issues where YouTubers will leave after 30 seconds. They just bail out of a video. One, the content maybe it's not compelling, it's not interesting to them, there's too many ads, whatever it is, they're gone. Other issues, there have been studies published about users that will leave a video if it starts up too slowly or buffers too much or there's quality problems. So lots of studies around this. There was a really good one by the University of Amherst, Massachusetts, and Acuity that studied this exact thing, is users will sort of leave within 2 seconds if a certain parameter of events happen. It buffers too many times, it doesn't start up quickly enough. And then there's other things like video quality. So in a recent study by Conviva, they found that about 75% of viewers will bail, if the video quality sucks. So there are some issues, right? There are some issues with video, and they relate directly to abandonment and churn. Now, one of the things that Parks and Associates found, and this is a really recent study from 2017, is that about 50% of users churn from OTT services. And so the question becomes, well, why are they churning? Why are they leaving? And the Parks and Associates study was done in Q3 of 2017. I think they said about 10,000 households they surveyed. So they understand that people are leaving, and part of that issue is Parks and Associates also identified 200 OTT services in the United States, and I think 100 in Canada. So that's kind of crazy market saturation. I mean, how do you keep loyalty amongst your subscriber base when you're fighting with 199 other OTT providers? So the question is, if we fix all that, right? If we fix quality, if we fix the buffering issue, if we fix some of the other stuff, it'll all be rainbows and unicorns, right? We'll keep all our subscribers, you'll have an awesome service, you'll never lose another user, you'll get all your ad impressions. And if I tell you that, I'm seriously lying to you, right? So there's going to be churn and abandonment. The question is how do you mitigate it? It's not how do you prevent it, it's how do you reduce it. You're going to have users who are leaving your service, right? You're going to have users who no longer want your content. But the issue is not about stopping it, it's just about managing it. So there are kind of three things that really have to do with abandonment and churn. The first of those is content. right? So it's about, sort of the experience, right? Where is my content being delivered? Is it on my mobile phone? Is it on my tablet? Can I get it on the PC? Can I get it on TV? The second thing is sort of content, right? It's pure content, lack of content. So if you don't have what your users are looking for, they're never going to stay, right? They're always going to leave. They're always going to go look for an OTT service or an online video offering that provides them the kind of content they want. And the third thing is kind of what we call subscriber fatigue. So let me ask you a question. How many of you subscribe to one OTT service, like Netflix or Hulu or something like that? How many of you subscribe to 2 OTT services? 3? 4? So you can imagine, like, you get to a point where you're like, I want to watch that content over there, but I already have 4 subscriptions and I'm flipping through them and I can never find content. It's become too much. And there are solutions in the market for this, right? So the market is trying to figure out, how do I get a single unified experience across all online video? Apple TV does it okay. A couple of other providers are coming to the market with their solutions. But subscriber fatigue is a problem. And it hits your bottom line, right? So when you don't have a great video experience across devices, when you're lacking content, when you have subscriber fatigue, it's gonna result in a loss of revenue. I mean, and that's significant, right? That's a problem. So one of the things that I have access to is a really cool bunch of member companies. And this is our member list right now. So you can see some great logos on there, right? They span the video ecosystem. And I decided, why don't I ask these guys what the best practices are for video engagement? How do you keep people engaged with your service? I'm like, okay, so I did a little science, sort of, right? So the data that I'm going to show you is absolutely not scientific. It is completely arbitrary. I made up some survey questions, I sent them to those member companies, and I got some feedback. And I want to share that feedback with you because it's really rather interesting. So I asked this question, basically, what do you think causes churn in OTT services? And I realize the labels on the left-hand side of the graph are cut off. You can email SurveyMonkey and complain to them, because I already did. So I'll read them to you. It's lack of interesting, appealing content. That's the first one. Poor user experience or an interface. Continued increase in cost of service. Recurring problems with video quality, such as a high rebuffering ratio. Some other consistent technological issue, like the stream is not available. And then too many commercials or advertisements. So you can see that green bar, which is a lack of interesting, appealing content, is number 1. That's what our members felt was the primary reason that people were churning from OTT services or from online video. It's just they didn't have very good content. And the second one is the sort of recurring problems with video quality. So those are the 2 big issues, right? And you may have had expectations coming to this presentation like best practices for video engagement. I'm going to get some cool tips and tricks. I'm going to get to those. But right now, these are the things that are really driving people to leave, or what our experts at the SVA feel are driving people to leave. So the next question we ask is sort of rank the following ways to keep subscribers engaged. And again, the labels are cut off, so I'll read them. So you have richer and deeper content library with better discovery tools. Again, better content, better way to find it. Personalized recommendations of content to watch. I think we all have experienced that with either Netflix or Amazon or some of the other guys. Social integration with content viewing experience. Second screen application to expand the content experience. And then virtual reality. Look what the smallest bar is, virtual reality. I'll talk about that in a second. But again, look at the green bar, right? It's really about content. So how do you keep users engaged? It seems like a no-brainer. You give them what they want, which is the content they're expecting to find, the content that they want to consume. But the second one is interesting, personalized recommendation. Again, so part of the problem, like all of you raised your hands, that had 3 or 4 subscriptions, how hard is it to find something to watch? You get a recommendation from a friend. Hey, you should check this new show out on Netflix. Oh, cool, I'm gonna put that on my list. And then you finish it. And then you're still on Netflix going, what do I watch next? And you start thumbing through the thumbnails, right? You're like, that's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. And you don't realize that that's just like the EPG on your old cable subscription service, right? When you were just thumbing through channels going, it's on next. What can I watch? Same process. So personalized recommendations are a great way to circumvent that. You start getting content that maybe appeals to you based on content you've watched. And the last question I asked was about technology, right? So what technologies really keep people excited about content? So the first one is artificial intelligence or machine learning, right? That's kind of cool, has some applicability. Virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, that's number 2. Improved video compression, right? So you can potentially get higher bitrate content for less bandwidth. That seems like it would be appealing to users. And then high dynamic range, right, HDR. So as you can see here, right, the number 1 is, again, based on our members, improved video compression. So they really feel that if service providers can deliver higher bit rates, users will be happier and they'll stay engaged. They'll keep coming back for more content. It's an interesting idea. And then HDR was number 2, and artificial intelligence, and there's that VR again, dead last. That's interesting. All right, so let's dig into these a little bit, right? So let's dig into content. Now, again, right, I kind of said this a couple minutes ago. I guess I blew my joke, but really, this is a no-brainer. If you can't give users compelling, interesting content, they are never going to come back, period, end of discussion. You can have all the bells and whistles, all the gimmicks, all the gadgets, all the cool stuff, all the great technology. If you're not giving them a library of interesting, compelling material for them to consume, it's over before it starts. The mantra hasn't changed, and especially, it's even worse now. Now, you might be asking yourself, hey, that's a good question. How many of you in this room work for an OTT service or have an OTT service or deliver online videos? So a couple in back. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So, we know content is king. We know content is important. The question you have to ask yourself is, what kind of content? So think about this. You can go the general route, right? So I'm just going to get a bunch of different content across all sorts of verticals, and I'm going to aggregate it together, and I'm going to let my viewers watch that. Or I can go the vertical route or the niche route, right? So like Crunchyroll is dedicated to anime, and it's got a huge following. I think they have over 1 million subscribers, really focused on giving their viewers exactly the kind of content they want. Not general, very, very specific. So you kind of have to figure out your content strategy very early on. Which way am I going to go? Are we going to go like, we want to be kind of like Netflix? So that's what iFlix did, right, in Southeast Asia. We're just going to be the global Netflix competitor. They went that way. And then you had Crunchyroll go the other way. No, we're not going to compete with Netflix. We're going to give people content that Netflix can't get. And we're going to get a community around that. Now, obviously, getting content can be complicated, right? So you can license it, which is a pain in the butt, right? When you're managing lots of different licenses with lots of different content providers, it's a lot of cost. There's a lot of regional rights that you have to manage, and things like that can really complicate the process. You can create it. So again, depends on your content strategy. What do we want to do? Do we want to do something that's original and unique? Obviously, all of that costs money. So investing in your content is critical. If content is king, and content is the way that your users are going to stay engaged because you've got the stuff they want to see, you've got to invest in it. You've got to be willing to say, all right, most of our money is going to go to getting that content. But we know that content is not one size fits all. It is absolutely and must be personalized. We can't just give people and feed people the same stuff that everybody else is doing, because then you're just Me Too. And the problem with being Me Too is, like what I said before, how many OTT services are there in the US? 200. That's crazy. So in order to compete with all of those OTT services, you have to create something that's different around your content. Now, one of the companies that does this super well is Amazon. And the reason Amazon does video personalization so well is because they know everything about you, right? You're on Amazon, you're buying books, you're buying products, you're searching for stuff. All of that data comes back to Amazon, and they use that to influence what you watch on Amazon Prime. And that's a fantastic application of technology, and I'll get sort of to the point of that in a second. What I don't think you should do from a content perspective is get gimmicky, right? So let's talk VR, okay? How many people in here have had an experience in VR? Okay, cool. How many people in here have had an experience with VR video? Little less, right? So there's lots of VR experiences. Hey, I can walk around this museum, I can ride this roller coaster, I can do kind of cool stuff. But when you start talking about video in VR, it's really not very compelling. Not yet, at least, right? So VR has the opportunity to do some really cool storytelling stuff. It's nowhere near there yet. It's not. So right now, having that content is really just a gimmick. And we all know what happens with gimmicks in the market when it comes to video. Anybody remember 3D TV? Yes. Who has a 3D TV, or who bought one? Anybody? Yeah, I had one. It was terrible. I never wore the glasses. They were ridiculous. It was a bad experience. And so again, it was just a gimmick to sell television sets. It was never intended to create really cool, compelling content. So you have to do two things with your content. First, you have to be willing to ask questions of your viewers. What do you want to see? What are you interested in seeing? What's compelling to you? What will drive you to watch more content? You have to be willing to do that, and lots of content providers are not, right? They don't want to engage with their viewers. I don't know if they're afraid what they're going to find out. The second thing you have to be able to do is you have to be willing to get friendly with the data. So you're collecting data from your player, from your server, from your origin, from your CDN. Who's watching what, when, where, how, and why? And mining that data, combining it with asking questions, will provide you a sort of roadmap about the kinds of content that your viewers are interested in seeing. And you might be surprised. Like maybe Crunchyroll started out with the idea of doing cartoons. And then they started looking at their users, and their users started emailing them, and they started having feedback, and they started looking at data, and they're like, wait a minute, they don't just want cartoons, they want anime, which is really specific. And then boom, Crunchyroll gets super popular. The other thing that really need to be careful about is content discovery. So how do you make it easy for your users to find the next thing to watch? Because if there's a pause, right, if your user is on your site or your application and they're watching content and they finish, if there's nothing next, what are they going to do? They're going to go somewhere else. Oh, hey, I wonder what's on, I'm on Netflix, I'm done, I can't find anything. I wonder what's on Prime. I wonder what's on HBO. I wonder what's on Showtime. I'm moving on to the next service. So Netflix has just lost my viewer information. So that's really important that you make it simple and easy for users to find the content they want to watch. And again, personalization and recommendation services are fantastic for that. But you have to be willing to ask users questions, and you have to be willing to look at that data. All right, the second thing we need to talk about, the experience. This is equally important to content. Now, everyone has been disappointed in their lives, right? You've done something, you drop your phone, it breaks, kind of like, man, you go to an OTT service, an application, and you're trying to thumb through something, or you're on your computer trying to find something, or you're on your TV trying to find something, you're like, this sucks. This is terrible. And you're just really disappointed in the service. And that's a real black mark against viewer engagement, right? So you're gonna leave at some point. You're like, I can go find similar content elsewhere and a better experience. And mind you, everyone has disappointment, even cats. I'm trying to get you guys charged up. It's very difficult. But really, what we have is when OTT services break, any part of them breaks, that's the true problem, right? So we have to be vigilant as service providers, whether it's a small niche OTT offering or a big one like Netflix, you have to make sure that the experience meets the expectations of your users, that you're not disappointing them. So it's creating an opportunity for them not only to find content, but to feel, joy in using your application or your service. And that takes a lot of effort. It's not something you can just sort of cobble together in a night. You really have to look at, and again, ask questions and analyze data to figure out how best to present your content. So it's not just about a list of movies or a list of shows or a list of videos. How are those things presented to the users? Is it aesthetically pleasing? Is it interesting and engaging visually? So there's all these little components that relate to the subjectivity that users have about engaging with your service. And we want to ignore that sometimes. We want to go flashy and gimmicky. Hey, let me put some Twitter feeds in my OTT service. That'll solve the problem. People will be looking at Twitter and engaging with Twitter and watching video at the same time. Right? Unproven. It's really about how beautiful is my service, how engaging is it to interact with and find content and see content. Netflix does a great job at that, right? It's very simple and clean and mean and engaging visually. Now, one of the things that you need to think about from the experience standpoint is multi-device. So how do you get content everywhere? And how do you make sure that those experiences on those devices are linked together? So if I go on my TV on your smart app to watch your video, and then I cruise over to my mobile phone because I walk out of the house and I want to keep watching what I was watching, and the experiences are totally different, that's jarring. Psychologically, that's very jarring. Again, look at Netflix. And I'll use Netflix as an example all the time, or Prime, right? The experiences across those devices are really similar. And it's not hard to do technologically anymore, right? We can have reference designs that are programmatically capable of carrying our design across mobile, across laptop, across PC, and across TV and connected device. So something to think about. Make sure when you're packaging your content experience up that it's portable. Now, people always ask me like, so mobile phones. Are people really watching long-form content on mobile phones? Are people really watching video content on mobile phones? The answer is yes. Right, so this is just a graph from Statista, and it really shows the ramp up of mobile views. And it's kind of plateauing a little bit, but you've got, in Q3 of 2013, you've got 14% of video views were being done on mobile phones. In Q4 of 2017, it's 60%. Now, that coincides with Cisco's Visual Networking Index report, which says that by 20-something or other, 2021, 80% of all IP traffic, mobile IP traffic, will be video. So we know that users are going to their phones to watch content. So the question is how well does your content show up on a mobile phone? And if you don't have an answer to that, that's an engagement problem, because people are not going to engage on their phone. They're going to wait to get back home, and by the time they wait to get back home, they may be distracted by something else, and they never watch your content. Now, the thing, too, is that we know experiences in video consumption are not about being the leader. Now, that's a weird thing to say, right? But you want to make sure that your experience is something people are used to. So do you remember, how many people remember the old Amazon website when they had tabs at the top? Yeah, a couple people back, right? If you're a programmer, you're like, oh, I totally remember tabs. What did everybody do on the web when Amazon did that? They copied them. Like, so everyone across the web started building tabbed websites. Why? Because there were so many people using Amazon. Chances are if they came to their site, they had used Amazon, they would be more familiar with tabs. They're happier. So look out into the market, look at Netflix, look at Prime, look at Hulu, figure out like, what are the design elements, the behavioral elements that I can that I can research and incorporate into my offering. Because that way you'll appeal to the behavior that's already established. Trying to get people to do new things in a new way, super hard, right? So I argue with people all the time. They're like, hey, VR is coming next year. I'm no, VR is coming in like 10 years. Because it takes time for people to incorporate new behaviors into their routine and make changes. So if you have an app, an OTT app, or an online video app, or a service, or an experience that's different, like really different, you're going to lose users, not gain them. Yeah, you'll have some outliers who'll be like, this is cool. But the majority of people are like, I can't figure out how to use this, and I'm not taking the time to learn. I don't have time. So I'm gone. One of those is this concept of social TV, right? So we talk about it a lot in conferences like this. Like, hey, what if we incorporate social media into the online video experience? That will be cool, right? People will be on Facebook, typing comments and engaging with their friends, and this will be exciting. And the answer to that is, no, this is really not. I mean, it's interesting to a small minority of people, but the majority of your viewers are like, I don't care. I just want to watch the video. Can you get all the other stuff out of my way? So something to think about, right, is what are you incorporating into the experience that either, one, creates a happier environment, or two, alienates users through foreign behavior. right? Eventually stuff like this will come. You have to sort of time it. You have to sort of figure out when you can ride the wave into it. But for right now, this day, 2018, social TV is a bust, a complete bust. It's not working. It's a great idea, it's just not working yet. People are so focused on consuming the content that they're moving past the socialization. All right, last thing, quality. Okay, this is a no-brainer. Right, so I pulled some slides from Limelight Network. So Limelight did a study, 2017, OTT 3.0, and they went out and surveyed a bunch of users about how they felt about quality, video quality. So this is kind of an interesting graph. It's like how many times will you let a video buffer before you bail? So you can look, once. Like 21% of users will leave if it buffers once. That's like, wow, that's savage. I mean, that's pretty harsh. The second one though, look at that climb. So there's a bunch of users out there who are willing to say, all right, they can buffer twice. But by like twice buffering, 60% of your viewers are gone. Wow. I mean, that's a substantial number. And then you got some that'll stay for 3 or 4 times, right? This is just gonna get worse. So buffering is the static of our generation, right? Okay, so I'm gonna date myself, right? How many people remember smacking the TV on the side to reduce the static, right? It's what people do. What do you do? How do you reduce buffering, right? There's nothing. I can't smack my monitor. It's not gonna fix it. It'll make me feel better, but it's not gonna fix it. This is a problem. Quality is a problem. Here's another interesting graph. So what's the most frustrating aspect of watching online video, right? So you look at this, number one, when the video buffers. It really aggravates people. Why? Because it's interruptive, right? People don't like to be interrupted. I'm watching my video and then all of a sudden an ad shows up. All of a sudden it buffers. All of a sudden the quality goes. I've been interrupted. It's annoying. I just want to watch the video. And the second one thing, when the quality of the video is poor, right? So remember, go back to that graph I showed earlier from our member base. When they were interested in, higher, better compression encoding, that's going to create a better engagement. It really shows up on the user side. Users want to see higher bitrate video. They want to see better quality. So there's 2 kinds of quality you have to concern yourself about. There's delivery performance. How can I improve the performance of the delivery of my video so that it gets to the user faster, has less rebuffering, just basically increases the opportunity for them to consume it. So that's working with your CDN and working with your origin and working with all sorts of your delivery partners to figure out how to optimize that. The second thing is visual acuity, right? How do I make the video look better? That's a tough one, right? So that's, encoding is a black box. You really need people who are experienced and scientific about it, but who understand how to turn the knobs and flip the switches and make the subtle changes that improve how your video is encoded. And then of course, how many bit rates are you delivering? So there's all sorts of operational things that you can think about that impact how engaged your viewers are, right? Okay, so here we are, we're at the end. Like, not that kind of end, but this kind of end, right? It's the part where I take my bow. Now again, you may have had some expectations about coming here going, I'm gonna get some really cool tips and tricks about how to keep viewers engaged, like things I should do in my app or things I should do in my video content to keep people excited about coming back. And no, right? Those are gimmicks. What I was trying to teach you was, it's not about this stuff, right? It's not about the cool things that you can do. It's the things that you can do right now today to get people to watch your video more often and watch more of it. And the way to do that is to improve those things that I just went over, right? Because what I'm giving you is kind of the dam to prevent your subscribers from flowing to your competitors. And the way you do that is these 3 things. This is the gist of my presentation right here, right? Tailor content to your user. Give them what they want. If that's niche, give them niche. Reinvent your business if your users are demanding vertical approach. You have to be willing to do that. Build an experience, make it awesome, right? I mean, that's really what you want to do, is visually engaging, exciting. There's all sorts of design books you can read and you can experience about sort of the feng shui of application development, right? But the experience of clicking and tapping and swiping, it's important. And really good companies like Netflix and Prime, and they know that, and they hire people to do that because they understand that that has a meaningful impact to abandonment and churn. Oh, sorry, and the last one was, of course, improved quality. And I know that this is your expression right now, right? You're like, wow, I am so enlightened. And that's why I'm going to end with this, because I feel like I have accomplished what I have come to set out to do. So anyway, before I get this resounding round of applause, I would like to ask you if you have any questions about what we talked about. Yes?
Earlier just now, the couple of slides before this one, you were talking about building an incredible user experience. And I wanted to know, what are some books that explain the feng shui and some recommend?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question, I'm going to repeat the question so for the recording, was really about what resources are there for books and whatnot for sort of understanding that feng shui of app design. I don't have any off the top of my head, but if you give me a card, I will get you some. Yeah. Question.
You mentioned about training being some service work. You also kind of mentioned ads or ads. Is that also?
So obviously, people are carrying. Oh, let me repeat the question. Sorry. So the question was around: is advertising one of the reasons that people are leaving, online video or OTT services? So think about a little bit about sort of how viewers are carrying television expectations into online video, right? So we started out with TV. It's a lean back experience on the couch. I get very used to the commercial. Now, the commercials in the 50s and 60s used to be totally different. They used to be really long, and they were sponsor-driven. And they became shorter and segmented, and now they're sort of 30-second ad spots. People have become totally okay with that. We in this room have become totally okay with that. How many people in here have young kids, like, let's say, 10 and under? People have, right? 10, how many of those people watch video? How many of those kids watch video? They grow up watching videos without ads. Right? So they're on YouTube and they're fast forwarding the ads, or they're clicking past them, or there's just no ads in general. I think for sort of the column Gen X's and baby boomers and above, advertising is, oh, okay, so there's a commercial. Whatever, I'll just turn my head, I'll look at my phone, I'll check my email, oh, the commercial's over. For the younger generation, not necessarily millennials, they're kind of in a tweener spot, but Gen Y and even past them, they are growing up in sort of an ad-free environment. And so I think for them, future online services that deliver video coupled with advertising is going to be really bad. Like that's going to be a major issue for them. And we don't, no ads. No, I don't want ads. So right now the answer is it's a really complicated problem. Yeah, so if you have an ad, an AVOD service, you're probably okay for right now. It's probably going to be more contentious in, say, 15 years. Question?
Do you think quality matters for ads?
Yes, actually. So the question is, do you think quality matters for ads? The Streaming Video Alliance is actually putting out a specification, best practices for video quality in advertising of online video. So we believe that if you have a 1080p show that somebody's watching and it downshifts into a 780p or even worse quality ad, the viewer is jarring. It's like, is there something wrong with my computer? Like, did my internet go out? I mean, why did that just get really bad quality? So it really does matter. And again, that best practices doc that we'll publish will probably be available, I want to say sometime in May. And again, it's on our website. You can download it, and it's got a lot of data in there about encoding profiles and bit rates and what you should do and how you should present your ads. And so absolutely, in my opinion, it does have a meaningful impact.
Mixing all the main concept of 200 service, OTT services, plus a lot of content available, and you mentioned a lot of subscription models. So how do you see the future when maybe the transactional model might lower the price and micropayments and all of that, including avoiding AVOD? So
Yep.
maybe how do you see that?
So the question was sort of how is the market going to shake out from a business model perspective? I don't have an answer for that, but you asked the million-dollar question, because everyone right now is testing, right? So people are moving from, so as a matter of fact, OTT services are combining AVOD and SVOD, right? They're kind of like, well, let's do one version at $7.99 with ads and one version at $10.99 with no ads, and let's see what happens. So people are A/B testing all these models simultaneously. You've got the concept of Bitcoin and the blockchain coming out. Does that improve microtransactions? There's so much happening around the business of delivering an OTT service or an online video offering that I don't think anyone knows what the right business model is yet. I mean, I think obviously everyone wants to be Netflix, right? 146 million subscribers, they're all paying X dollars a month. Hey, this is fantastic. We can spend $6 billion on content. There's usually only one or two of those. So if you're trying to figure out how does my business model fit into user expectations for business models, because if everyone's a Netflix subscriber and then they go to your service and they can't figure out how the business model works, most people leave. They're like, forget it. Maybe I'll come back later. Maybe they'll have figured it out. But it's a great question. I mean, I personally don't have an answer. Right.
The lowest. What to put at the lowest, because there is some debate. Either you see a very bad quality of the video, or if you don't have a bandwidth, or just cut it off. So, what is your experience in that?
Sure. So the question was around what's the experience of what's that lowest bit rate in an ABR package in order to get users to have a good experience. Or to cut it off, yeah. So it depends, in my opinion, it depends where you're delivering. So if you're delivering content to, let's say, India or Africa or another sort of third world country, and you're trying to get video in there, it's got to be a low bit. You have to have a really low bit rate floor. Without that floor, chances are you're not going to be able to deliver your highest bit rates or your higher bit rates. So it's really figuring out geographically where you are. And then the profiles of your users. So are they largely watching from mobile phones? Or are they watching from higher bandwidth devices, like connected devices like Roku's and Apple TVs?
I am more for a smart TV. So
okay.
What do you think? The user experience still to watch a very bad quality video, or just to tell them, listen, take care of your bandwidth, buy more bandwidth or whatever, or cut it off?
So there goes back to my point about asking your users questions. Ask them that question. Survey them. Just say like, hey, we're currently trying to expand our offering and optimize it. If we offer you a video that's a poor quality but available versus not making the video available at all in that poor quality, which would you rather have? And using that to drive your business. Yeah, we don't engage enough with our viewers around video. We just assume that they're watching TV like they normally do, or we are assuming that they're okay and accepting of the challenges that we have, even though they don't know what they are. So yeah, survey them. Yeah.
One of your slides mentioned the fact that people abandon the video viewing experience up to 60% once the buffers happen twice or more, or twice. Have you had any insights about the trade-offs between the in-play stalls and the start stalls when it comes to that? So for the sake of example, we can optimize to minimize in-play stalls if we buffer more initially, but
right.
a larger start.
Okay, so let me repeat the question. It's really a technical question around what is the relationship between basically stalls and buffering at different points in the video, and I have no answer for that, yeah, unfortunately. It's a great question.
So you talked about subscription lengths. So traditional broadcasters used to lock you into a 12-month contract or whatever, make it quite difficult to churn. And more, subscription lengths are changing down to 1 month or maybe even 1 day. Do you think there's a good point or a right length of subscription to lock your customers into?
Yeah, so the question is, what is the optimum subscription length for an OTT service? Great question. I think user expectation for the web is, and for things on the web, is that it's a month at the most, right? I can churn when I want to. I think we see a lot of services like that, a lot of web applications, a lot of cloud services that I come in, I subscribe, and I'm gone. That does obviate the issue of lock-in, right? So how do I get my users to stay longer if it's so easy to churn? So I've imagined this service where I go onto a website and I say, I want to watch Game of Thrones. And so the website says, oh, Game of Thrones is available from HBO Now or HBO Go. Okay, that's cool. Well, subscribe it for me. Proxy my information, subscribe for me, and when Game of Thrones is over, automatically churn me. So I'm churning based on a television show, on content, not on the provider. I think we're going to move to that at some point. I think there are services like that that are going to pop up, call them meta services, that are going to enable users to churn even easier. I don't think viewers will really be amenable to lock-in links on OTT. They'll probably just go, forget, I'm not doing it. Unless there's really compelling value, like, hey, sign up for 12 months of Netflix and get 50% off, plus these 7 Ginsu knives. You know, they got to throw something in, right, for an issue like that.
Is there any data out there based on mobile versus tech TVs and what proper ad load should be?
You know, the IAB, I think, has been looking at some of that stuff. I don't know if there's actually any data available. That's a great question. I can, if you give me your card, I can reach out to my contact at IAB Tech Labs and see if he's got anything.
Any data on adding other interactivity into the OTT experience of while you're watching, a particular video with live Twitch feed going on, or other things that you can combine into it to create a more engageable experience that keep people, there for longer, and also, that ADD, concept of going to your second screen is right there in front of you while you're watching the video.
Right. I think there is. So the question was, is there any data around expanding the viewing experience with other interactivity, second screen, things like that? There is a lot of data out there. I didn't pull any for this presentation, but there is data about second screen, about the impact of second screen. People are using them, right? They're not using them to do things related to the video. So they're watching a video on their computer or their tablet or their TV, and they're looking at their email or they're on Facebook. So they're like, and you walk into the living room and you're like looking at your kid going, aren't you watching that? I know what's happening. Not, okay. so it's, that's the new behavior. There's obviously ways that you can create experiences. Sci-Fi Channel did a really great job of trying to marry a second screen app with the show. It would listen, to the audio and key in certain things. It was really awesome. But again, you're changing consumer behavior. Like, are people really going to do, you do that for a little bit and you're like, that's cool, I'm going to go back to Facebook. So their data is out there. It's really still experimentation phase, trying to figure out what works. What doesn't distract people from the video that they want to be distracted from, and how does it work in concert with it?
How rigid are the boundaries of programming? You were talking about niche programming. So let's take Crunchyroll anime. Can they all of a sudden introduce, let's say, gaming and get away with it, or do they need to stay really local?
So that's where they'll probably reach out to their subscriber base and say, hey, how interested would you be if we started offering gaming content? It really depends on the audience. Obviously, you have to be careful about investing too much in content that your audience may or may not watch. It's risky, right? So it's understanding better what their predilection is towards that kind of content that's away from the core mainstay of what you're offering is really critical to do. But there's no hard and fast rules. You've got to be willing to talk to your viewers and figure out, would this be of interest to you? And if it is, maybe we go get 2 or 3 shows and we test it out. I think we are out of time. Are we out? We done at 12:30? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much for attending the whole thing and great questions. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your show.